Warning, this podcast is produced by Metaverse Ventures Entertainment and contains unsolicited and heavily biased opinions which are solely the views of the individuals involved. It does not include investment advice of any kind, and you are responsible for undertaking your own financial, including tax liability research relevant to your own individual circumstances.
Okay, moving on. How to Upland. Now, I think this was another Shackleton proposal. Choosing your first properties. Now, this is a very good one to dive in, which is kind of a little bit complicated nowadays because of the FSA system and the changes to the FSA system. Anybody want to jump in? If you're a new player starting in now, your very first properties, you just found the link and you've come on over and you want to buy your first properties, what would you advise? Anybody want to jump in?
Sorry,
I would say start in a tier 1 city like Chicago.
Yes, absolutely. That's a good one. Thank you. Awesome. Now, it's very rare that that's an opportunity that's still available. Normally, the tier 1s sell out lickety-split. What's your thinking there? Like a tier 1 city, what's the mint floor in Chicago now? Is probably in the, 5-6K range? I've got no idea, actually. Maybe I should look that up.
Yeah, I don't know about minting, but I think like cheapest property on the secondary market's around, I don't know, probably 12,000 maybe.
Yep.
But just like treasure hunting. So I don't know if I could do it all over again. I'd, just put in $10 and get something in a good city, and yeah, just start doing those free standard treasure hunts.
Absolutely. And there is also, like Finsky said, he's been going around gobbling up all the undermints. So you might think that cheap FSA is the best deal, but if you can get a whole bunch of undermints, you're actually going to be far better off as far as your return on investment goes. Shackleton has said in chat, my number one piece of advice is to search UPEX land for below mint properties. Buy that. Yeah. Don't just buy something you find with your BE like I did, and pretty much everybody else did. Yeah. It's a tricky one.
I bought one FSA before I moved onto the second market. I chose New Orleans as my starter city, and had I found either the Facebook or the Discords first, I would have learned that's not where I want to be going. Usually my number one advice would be go to the latest release city or the second last release city, because both LA and Detroit still have FSAs available, whereas like Rio sold out. So, if you can sort of map out when the cities were released, you'll work out which cities are better to go to.
Absolutely. And an important thing to note is everybody's going to make those dunderhead mistakes early on. Like you click on this property, oh, that looks like a good property, and you've just fattened somebody's wallet. Somebody had some crazy price listed, and then you've just made their day. Everybody goes through that. It's just one of those things. Maybe for something specific, I'd like to focus on the collections, which I don't personally myself worry about collections now, but yeah, if I was a new member joining Upland, and we know that if you were lucky enough to get on to the Discord and you found out, okay, there is the Rio re-release coming up, there's a few different options here as far as collections go. Now, the collections I'd be focusing on is the Rio de Janeiro collection, which is the generic owned 3 properties in Rio de Janeiro, the Newbie, the King of the Street, and the City Pro. Now, if you're very clever about how you go about this, if you were to buy, or if you were to mint or buy 3 properties on the same street, then you're going to be able to get the King of the Street collection. If you get another 2, and now what's your starting UPEX bonus now? I think it's 6,000. So if you join with a referral or made a purchase, you can boost that a little bit. But say you start with 6,000, you could essentially get 6 1,000 UPEX properties, which would give you, if you got 3 on the same street, you get the King of the Street collection, you could get the City Pro collection, you'd get the Newbie collection, and you'd also be able to unlock the Rio de Janeiro collection and the bonuses associated with that, with just your 5 properties. So that's one way to go about it. The other way to go about it would be to see some of these standard collections. More often than not, in new city releases, the standard collections for the FSAs sit there unminted for a while. They're a pretty good idea to grab and flip as well. But again, we touched on some of the new restrictions that have been made to the FSA system recently, which kind of doesn't make that as lucrative as it once was.
It also really pays off to go through your properties for the yield and selecting those addresses that have the highest yield so that you're making the maximum of the properties in that area.
Yeah, it's very tough at the start. Like you get your 5 properties and you put them in the collections, and what are you making? You're making 20 UPEX a month or something crazy. It's usually pretty pathetic unless you're willing to put some money in. But yeah, any little boost you can do, the better. I don't know. Do people still use FSA agents? Is that still a thing? I haven't. I used to use them all the time. I haven't for a very long time.
Yeah,
I didn't know that was a thing when I started.
We've got one that's really active in the Vatican House server for the Evergreen node. And he also is a major participant in our Spanish community. So, he's a translator, which is pretty awesome. And, whenever we're just trying to snap up FSAs, he's got a whole little network of new players that we can buy them from. So, it's good.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're lucky enough to find yourself, you've found YouTube videos or you're in the Discord or whatever, and you're in communication with people, that's probably your best bet, is to hook up with an agent and work with them, because you're going to get the most bang for your buck, unless you happen to be lucky and mint something in a city release that turned out to be a collection or something. Cheese?
An option guru just posted the Upland Optimizer upped his monthly by $2,500 just by rearranging his standard collection, and it's done the same for me as well. So that's something you should really check out and be on the lookout for.
Yeah, for sure. And Finsky said mint FSAs from neighborhoods that minted out normal properties, not from areas where there are lots of unminteds left. Yeah, because it's just one of those supply and demand things. Moon Unit has said, starting out intending to put money in, I would have bought larger properties for the yields. That's what I'm changing to now before yields drop more. Yeah, it's one of those things. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for a new player is to learn as much as you can about the game. Get in touch with people who are established. There's so many good communities around now. You'll find a community that suits your kind of interests as well. So yeah. I don't know.
Have you guys had more luck, like in the beginning, flipping tons of small properties, or like flipping early on where you're doing larger properties?
Me personally, when I was a better player, I kind of feel like instead of going up, I'm going down. Because when I first started out, I didn't really have an attachment to the properties, and I would flip really fast. Like a good example of that would be Oakland was one of my first city openings. And when that came out, it was a while before any city openings came out, and people were really excited. So I'm going to admit something. When everybody was going for the diamonds, I was going for all the other stuff.
Oh, back in the day. Nice.
Back in the day. So I was like just flipping. I kept a bunch of really big ones, but I flipped the really small ones, and I flipped them right away. A lot of the time, the FOMO doesn't last long. And if you want to make quick money, you have to do it fast. You have to do it while people are even still minting sometimes. Yeah.
I found that I got stuck with, I was just buying a ton of like 5,000 to 7,000 UPEX mints. and they'd flip a little bit, but I was probably too greedy, asking too much. But now I'm trying to get out of so many small properties and, up my side. I've got like 5 that are 500, UP2 in size, but otherwise I just have a ton of small properties.
Yeah, it's so different nowadays. Like when I started, there was no FSA system or anything like that. So I made all the classic mistakes. I had a couple of hundred properties, but then I realized that there was an opportunity in San Francisco in the financial district. There was still, back then, there was entry-level properties there, like in the 100K range. So I sold hundreds of properties under mint to get into the financial district collection. And I upscaled my financial district collections from 100K. I think I jumped to 250K each. And then I ended up with properties that were all over $1 million each, just by being willing to sell for under mint or flip properties really quick for a very low percentage in Fresno and all of the different cities that came out. But it's kind of that option's, I don't like that option's not available anymore. Like if you sell too many properties under mint, you're going to get flagged and potentially put into Alcatraz. But that's a pretty strong economic tool to be able to sell at a loss for the short term to take on better opportunities for a long-term game. But that card has been taken off the board.
And it just wanted to add to that, because they said you can only have 30 FSAs in lifetime.
Yeah,
that sort of removes the need to keep track of people selling under mint, because that was the whole thing, that they kept staying in the FSA zone.
Yeah, they kept themselves.
Maybe they'll remove that.
And I did that with FSA agents back in the day. They would keep buying FSAs, and I'd buy them at the mint price, but then we were stacking an IOU balance. And then once they went to pro, then I'd give them the UPEX on the back end. Or I think there's several UDU members where I did that with collection swaps, the same kind of thing, because it was a kind of grey area. Now they've clarified all that. It's a different ballgame, of course. Now, Cheese, you did put an article out. I didn't forget. Don't worry. We're going to use this to wrap this segment up.
I forgot.
You forgot. Oh, gosh. So this is probably, there's a lot of stuff in here that would help new players too. Did you want to run through this? What is Upland.me?
What is Upland? So I basically started this before Upland had the great idea for people to start talking about and writing things about Upland. I didn't want to put this in there as a contest, but I wanted to have it as a kind of go-to for basic stuff in Upland. Just kind of know the terms, know what things are, know that, they are expanding, they're going international. And basically, yeah, like the dividend rate, like how to minting process, like the size of the properties matter, like what kind of openings there are, vanilla or standard. Like it's not going to tell you too many tactics, but it does have some tactics in there, but it's going to basically get you ready to know what you're doing if you open up and download and open up the game.